numbers, big numbers. 100-minute bag, that's a big number. Big numbers, big numbers. Whole team counted, that's a big number.
Hey, foreign cars, foreign bras, foreign seats with the foreign leather.
All right, we are now live at the very tail end of an exhilarating, crazy game. Raiders-Chargers. Tyler, I need to get your instant reaction. It was back and forth the whole time. Carr, Herbert, dueling the defenses. How do you feel right now?
Well, I feel absolutely ecstatic. I can't lie. I'm sweating. I was nervous. I had all the emotions. My blood pressure was out of this galaxy. My heart might have been on Pluto. I had the booster shot yesterday, so I wasn't feeling 100%, but I made sure
Little boosty.
I gave all of my energy that I had to put out into the world so the Raiders could feel it. Big Tim in attendance at the game. I mean, it was absolutely electric back and forth. All we heard all day was if they tie, both of them get in. And Austin, what did I say? We play to win the game. We wanted to win.
You did say that.
We don't want a tie. We hate the Chargers. The Chargers hate us. So why would we help them out? Why would they help us out? And I'm glad that it came down to a Daniel Carlson field goal. And Austin, I have a vendetta out for two guys and two guys only after this game, Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth.
Oh.
Al Michaels, if that guy said that Daniel Carlson didn't miss in Allegiant Stadium one more time, I was going to cut his gizzards from his neck. And then Chris Collinsworth, going against every single, ruling on the field that the referees made against the Raiders and hoping that the Chargers, made out well on it, even though he was wrong. And, after all that negativity, the Raiders still got it done, and that's all that matters. We're moving on to Cincy.
Yeah, it was interesting. It almost looked like the Raiders were going to extend the olive branch, and, they weren't calling any timeouts. And then, surprisingly, the Chargers called a timeout. Obviously, you're in that situation. You don't know what's going to happen. And then at that point, the Raiders were like, all right, these guys don't want to see a tie. Fuck it. We're going to go all in. We're going to go to win this game. Josh Jacobs, definitely one of my X factors, in my opinion, of that game. 120-something yards, I feel like. Definitely got the job done on the ground. Another X factor, I'd say, Tyler, Max Crosby, that Raiders defensive
100%.
front. I mean, Rashawn Slater has been, a beast all year long. I don't think he was going up against him specifically, but
I think it was Norton.
yeah, but those guys were giving him work all day long. Herbert, he was great in this game. He didn't have a lot of time to throw, but I would say that was my X factor. And against all odds, Tyler, maybe one of the most, random, hard-fought seasons of an NFL team with all the, with all the different issues they had going on and off the field, coaching changes, what have you. They found a way, and yeah, they're in the playoffs.
Speaking of coaching changes, this is the first time a team since, I think, 1960, they said it tonight, has won and moved on to the playoffs with a mid-season coaching change. Adversity is probably the Raiders' middle name this season. We've just battled through it. We've put our head down, and we've worked through it. Max Crosby, like you said, absolutely dynamite game. Rocking his jersey. He, is definitely an X factor. He's a guy, that's a leader. He deserves to be a captain. He was getting after it. And even when the secondary let up some bad plays like they do most of the season, he was there to give him a high five. I mean, the guy is an absolute animal. And like you said, Josh Jacobs, I thought they could have got him in the game a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit more often. But he broke out with some great runs. I mean, he has had a lackluster season, to where he wants to be, I guess you could say. But a lot of that has to do with a poor offensive line. I do think this team is a gritty team. They're an interesting team. It's not like a team that, you would think should be in the playoffs. I mean, Austin, you probably are one of the biggest Raider haters, but I mean, they get the job done, and, whether it's in the worst fashion possible of making my blood pressure go through the roof, Daniel Carlson doesn't miss at Allegiant.
Yeah, no, he's automatic, clearly. Tyler, I'm going to say something nice about the Raiders. I'm not going to go out on a limb and I think, say I think they're legitimate by any means, but I think they can win a playoff game. The Cincinnati Bengals have been up and down all year long.
Frauds.
Depends what type of Bengals team you get that day, but we'll get into that.
I will say one thing, Austin, before we move on or anything.
Hmm.
The biggest X factor of this next game for the Raiders is Derek Carr. It's his first ever playoff game for the Raiders in his career. If you remember, 2016 was having that MVP season. Got injured. They ended up losing to the Texans in the first round. So Derek Carr has yet to see a playoff game, which is astonishing to me. I've forgotten about that
Hmm.
because he's played for some decent teams, but I think this is going to be a big, big game for Derek Carr. Everybody wants to say Joey Buckets, Joey Burr, but watch out for DC. My guy's got Jesus on his side.
Yeah, clearly he was calm, cool, and collect. It was like Jesus was just inhabiting his body and taking over for him. The guy, dynamic, making plays, in clutch situations. That throw to Zay Jones on the sideline, dumped it right in the basket where it had to be. Outstanding game. Again, congratulations, Tyler, Raiders Nation, and they're moving on to Cincy, like you said.
On to Cincy, baby.
So crazy game. There is a conspiracy, random scenario that almost happened. Someone came out on Twitter, I think earlier last week, and was saying somehow, right, against all odds, if the Jaguars beat the Colts, then if the Raiders Chargers end in a tie, they both get in. So the first part of that happened, right?
Right.
I mean, that's where I want to start because my biggest losers of the day, Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts, all they had to do beat the lowly Jaguars and you're in the playoffs. What happens? He goes out there, he throws two interceptions. Um, I'm not sure if we're in the twilight zone, but you got Trevor Lawrence out there looking like a clear number one overall pick. I'm not sure what happened for them, Tyler. I don't know if you watched the game a little more than I did, but just from the score standpoint, I was flabbergasted.
I mean, I watched a little bit of it. I'm actually kind of shocked that they didn't include Jonathan Taylor a little bit more. Um, you have such a great runner with Jonathan Taylor. You have such a great offensive line. And I feel like the Colts in the past month have just disregarded the run game, and the run game is what got them to where they are. And you're relying on Carson Wentz to make inherent throws. He had one that was a fumble, I believe, where it was unconventional, but he threw it like almost like a pitch pass.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just doing too much. And honestly, Austin, I think that was Carson Wentz's, or it should have been Carson Wentz's last game with the Colts. I mean, I don't think he fits in well there. I think they could find someone that's a little bit better, a la maybe a Matt Ryan or a veteran quarterback to lead these younger guys that are, they have great young talent. The problem is that, first off, they're abandoning the run game. Jonathan Taylor was abysmal in the first half. Josh Allen got after the quarterback, multiple times. Their defense was looking ecstatic. But I mean, Carson Wentz is the epitome of the reason why the Colts are not into the playoffs right now. He's just been playing piss poor.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Matt Ryan. We saw the Philip Rivers experiment, kind of getting a older, veteran, proven type guy. But as you mentioned, also they have a good young team. You would love to see him try to maybe draft and develop someone, or maybe get a guy a backup around the league. I feel like they would have been a lot better this year if they had a guy like Taylor Heineke. I think he makes a lot less mistakes than Carson Wentz. I think he's a little bit more reliable, and really that's all they needed. Wentz tried to do too much, puts himself in these crazy situations. But
I don't know what's going on in Jacksonville, by the way. It's like teams go down there and it's like the Bermuda Triangle, and they lose all of their powers, and they just don't know how to play football. Jacksonville might need to get checked out to see if they have like signals for cell phone reception and other things, because the Bills lost there. Now you get the Colts losing there, and the Jaguars were playing like it was a Super Bowl, and also like they weren't gonna get the first round pick, because if they won and the Lions lost, they would have lost out on that first overall pick.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, Lions ended up winning in a game that didn't really matter too much. But going from my biggest losers of the day to my biggest winners, Tyler, it's got to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger, I feel like much like he does on the weekends when the bartender says, "Hey, last call," he says, "No, fuck you, get me another drink." He's like, this is not my last game. We're gonna win here, and hope the Colts lose and the Raiders Chargers don't end in a tie. And guess what, Tyler? That's exactly what happened.
I love Tyler Huntley and all for the Ravens. I think he's a great backup quarterback. He just had a terrible game against the Steelers. They played very well. They schemed very well defensively against them. TJ Watt tying the single season record for sacks. He was after Huntley on multiple occasions throughout that game. They ran the ball very well, as the Ravens do. Latavius Murray had over 150 yards. But the biggest story, was their offense. They got huge plays for first downs. They had Ray McLeod, former Tampa native,
Okay.
catching the ball for the first down, to extend the game. Then you had Chase Claypool have a great catch. I mean, Deontay Johnson having a phenomenal season and extending a lot of plays today.
Well, Maji Harris, you can't forget about him. The guy's been a workhorse all year long.
I feel like I didn't really see much of him. He could have had a good game. I feel like a lot of it was, Ben being Ben and facilitating the ball around.
Yeah, I mean, there was one throw, I think it was like fourth down or something in overtime. It looked like the most slow motion throw to pick up the first down, threw it at the guy's feet. I forget who it was, might have been Claypool. Ended up picking up the first down, and yeah, against all odds, the Steelers make it to the playoffs. I guess we won't talk about it if we're gonna touch on today's games. But I was gonna say it's gonna be a tough task, obviously going into Arrowhead. But I mean, that's one of those I feel like fun old school rivalries with the Chiefs and the Steelers. Even though Big Ben, the Steelers, probably not what they were in years past, still have those guys, still have Mike Tomlin, and they still really have a winning culture in that organization.
Well, Austin, since you had some biggest losers and biggest winners, I'm gonna give you my biggest winners and biggest losers of this week. I'm gonna start with my biggest losers though. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals on this one. Cardinals are my biggest loser, losing to the Seahawks 38-30. Obviously, the Seahawks came in. They were saying this is their Super Bowl. Could it be Pete Carroll's last game? Could it be Russell Wilson's last game? And they showed out. Defensively, they played pretty well. Offensively, Russell Wilson was cooking.
Yeah.
He got Tyler Lockett the ball a lot. DK, I mean, Rashad Penny's been absolutely unstoppable the past month, and absolutely, took it to the Cardinals early and often. Cardinals did come back a little bit, but, what's going on with this Cardinals team?
I'm not sure. They kind of, I guess history repeats itself. I feel we see this the past few years with Kyler Murray and, Kingsbury and the Cardinals. They start off hot. I'm not sure if they're just, playing as underdogs, no pressure, and then they get, put on a pedestal and the spotlight's put on them and they just don't perform. Obviously they had all their guys, they had D-Hop back this week, right? I'm not sure. Was Connor playing? I didn't see that.
Connor was playing. He was in the game.
Yeah, so pretty much had all their weapons there. Just couldn't come out with the win. And obviously Seahawks play them tough, divisional rivals. But they're going into LA wild card weekend, best 2 out of 3. Tyler, winner moves on, so that'll be a fun one to watch.
I think the biggest thing is Kyler Murray just needs to, slow down. I feel like he rushes, through his progressions, and he's very quick to get out of the pocket. I mean, being a short quarterback doesn't help. Obviously, rolling out's going to help you see better beyond the offensive lineman, but he needs help. I mean, he doesn't have much receiving help besides Ertz, besides AJ Green. Sometimes he's hit or miss. Christian Kirk is hit or miss. He doesn't have that perennial all-star like D-Hop, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play against this Rams team, who's probably going to be a little bit pissed off after today. But my biggest winners, though, Austin, the Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Bucks 41-17 blowout against the Panthers. And I will tell you why they're my biggest winners, Austin, because they could have went from, playing as the 4th seed to playing as the 3rd seed. Instead, they got the job done against a poor Panthers team last game of the season. And now they're the number 2 team behind the Green Bay Packers in the NFC. So that means that they're guaranteed at least 1 home game, maybe even 2, probably most likely 2 home games. So not only does it lead through Lambeau, but most of the time it's going to be leading through Raymond James Stadium. Brady, absolutely ecstatic game too. Like, I think he had 4 touchdowns. Evans had 2. They were facilitating the ball all over the place. And I will say one more thing, Austin. One more thing. This just proves that the Tampa Bay Bucks do not need AB to win a football game.
Well, clearly, Tyler, and I know, whether it was last week or the week before, you asked me who would I be most, not afraid of necessarily, but who don't I want to face in the playoffs? And I said, well, as long as Tom Brady's on the Buccaneers, I'd have to go with them no matter the injuries. So it's looking like, if everything holds true, we're going to see a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game, Packers versus Bucks. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about for the Buccaneers, Tyler, we're talking about, no AB, injuries to Chris Godwin. I mean, Gronk had 7 for 137. Evans had 6 for 89. Perriman stepped up. Their run game, though, without Fournette, their run game has been non-existent. You might know, but take a guess who led the Buccaneers in rushing today.
Keyshawn Vaughn?
Scotty Miller. 2 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown. I'm assuming he broke off a long run.
He did.
But anytime,
it was like last play of the game.
But if you got your what, 3rd, 4th string wide receiver leading the team in rushes, that may work against the Carolina Panthers. That's not going to work against a good team. It might get them by the Eagles next week, probably will. But you get into those divisional round matchups where maybe they get the Rams or something like that. Obviously they wouldn't get the Packers.
I'm pretty sure they said Playoff Lenny would be back first week of the playoffs.
Did they say that? Well, that's a game changer. If they get him back, and that roster, because the defense has been stellar, obviously.
They said he was out for the regular season, but they plan on having him back the first playoff game.
Well, that makes things definitely interesting. That kind of, when you count Tom Brady out, I think the Bucs are just not going anywhere, and then now they're looking healthy again. They're playing good football.
Playoff Lenny.
I don't disagree with the fact that you had them as your biggest winners today. Tyler, I mean, if we're talking about not necessarily teams, the biggest winners today would be fans of overtime football. We had 3 overtime games, final week of the season.
Get your money up.
Steelers game, obviously. Chargers, Raiders, we talked about. And then we had the 49ers, Rams, which an interesting game. Not sure if you watched that. I was watching that. Rams were up, big. I think it was 17-3 at halftime. Garoppolo dealing with that hand injury. He had the tape on it. Really came out, played 49ers football. The defense stepped up. Elijah Mitchell ran the ball well. I mean, Deebo Samuel, right? This guy is dynamic. Ironically enough, he's a wide receiver. He scored in, the 2 other ways you could. He rushed a touchdown. He threw a touchdown. I'm still on the 49ers a little bit, Tyler. Who do they got next week? They got the Cowboys. I am not sold on the Cowboys still. Obviously, they had a big win Saturday against the Eagles, but we've seen kind of blemishes of them throughout the season. I am almost, we'll get into it, but I'm liking the 49ers in that matchup.
Yeah, the 49ers, another gritty team. They in the Bay, they brought down all their fans practically to fill SoFi today in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a home away game for the 49ers. I will say, Austin, I love Jimmy G. If I'm the 49ers, I'm maybe even looking at keeping him. guy is playing through an injury, losing cartilage out of his thumb, and
Hmm.
dealing the ball. I think he's a great quarterback. Maybe he's the next quarterback of a team like the Colts. Obviously, a lot of the time they're saying that he's auditioning for his next role around the league. I think, it would be dumb for the 49ers to not consider him. He's been playing well all season. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries. I think you can't take him into consideration as the starter without all of those injuries. But the 49ers, they, like you said, they played very well. I will say though, Austin, I'm very disappointed in how the Rams defense played today. For all the talent that they have on that team, they don't look like a Super Bowl contending defense. They don't look like they do look like a Super Bowl contending offense. They have all the weapons, a great quarterback, a plethora of wide receivers. Now they get Cam Akers back. They have a dual run game, but their defense, man, they are not doing what they should be.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. If only the 49ers could play the Rams every week, Tyler, I'd pick them to win the Super Bowl because, they beat them twice this year. It seems like even, this year, years past, Shanahan has had McVay's number. But yeah, like you mentioned, Rams, they're still a top team. I feel like contenders in the NFC. They get Akers back. Cup historic year at the wide receiver position. The defense, I would say, yeah, hasn't really played up to their, how they look on paper with all those big names they have. Donald had a good day. I don't know that has ever had a bad day in his career, but for me, it's all going to fall on Stafford, right? Kind of cliche saying, oh, it's going to come down to the quarterback, but there's times throughout this game, I think he started like with one incompletion in the first half, but then the second half, it's like he's making these adherent throws. He's just making like sporadic decisions. They can be a Super Bowl contending team, but I think we might run into a little bit of Matt Stafford's inexperience.
The ghost of Matt Stafford's past.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, the guy's never won a playoff game. Clearly, he's got a better roster here, but that's got to be in the back of his mind.
I think really the Rams, they need to buckle down on what they are doing defensively, because if they don't, then they might get surprised by the Cardinals team, who has been playing absolutely piss poor this past month and a half, 2 months. It's possible any given Sunday, especially in the playoffs.
Hmm.
I do want to touch on some AFC East action, Austin, real quick. We had the Dolphins upset the Patriots 33-24. This did help the Raiders, though, Austin, because if the Patriots did win, the Patriots would have been a lot higher of a seed. Now they're the 6th seed. Raiders are the 5th seed. So I was very happy that the Dolphins ended up winning.
Hmm.
Do you have any takeaways on this game, or?
No, I mean, for whatever reason, the Dolphins own the Patriots this year. They go 2-0 against them. Congratulations to the Dolphins, I guess, on a winning season. They end up, at 9-8. They have some building blocks there. Tua played well down the stretch. Not sure what's going on with the running back situation. They have, a stud young talent in Jalen Waddle. Other than that, not too much. Patriots, they're going to go up against the Bills again for the third time. Much like the Cardinals versus the Rams, best two out of three, winner take all.
Well, speaking of the Bills, Austin, that's the other NFC East game. 27-10, they beat the Jets, as they should have. Siri, play back to back by Drake, because they have won the AFC East back to back times the past 2 seasons. Josh Allen proven that he's the real deal in the AFC East. They look great running the ball, passing the ball, but I don't know how much I trust in that going up against the Jets. I do think that they're going to have a much harder game next week against the Patriots. Obviously, losing to the Patriots in that 60-mile-per-hour wind game a few months ago. But they're going to have a tough game defensively and offensively against the Patriots and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm unsure on the Bills. The offense looked good today again against the Jets. I feel like their defense has kind of been absent at times. We saw that one post game interview with Hyde and Poyer where they're all frustrated. Clearly, there's something going on in the locker room, maybe behind the scenes that we don't know. But with all that being said, Bills rolling a 4-game win streak into Wild Card weekend versus New England Patriots. I think they put themselves in a good position. Home field advantage. Obviously, it's interesting. Both the road teams in these matchups, Bills, Patriots, came out victorious. As long as there's no 20-mile-an-hour wind and crazy weather conditions going on, I think the Bills will do all right.
Some other games around the league, some that had some playoff hopes. We had the Saints beating the Falcons 30-20. Obviously, if the Saints won and I believe the Niners lost, the Saints would have propelled themselves into the playoffs. Obviously, the 49ers won, so the Saints won it all for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think they deserve to be in the playoffs, honestly. I thought it should have been the 49ers at the end of the day. I do love me some, New Orleans football, but they, I think, would have been a team that would have got absolutely ass handed to them first round.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the Saints right now this season being any kind of contender. Good for them. Got the win on the closing week of the NFL season against a struggling Falcons team. Be interesting to see how they handle things in the offseason. Obviously,
I agree.
No Jameis this year. He played well when he was healthy. Michael Thomas, maybe the biggest mystery. I put him up there 1A, 1B with Deshaun Watson. Guy's been absent. They're like, okay, he's making good progress, preseason. Well, maybe we'll see him at some point. And just you hadn't heard anything. We'll see. His future with the team remains a mystery. Taysom Hill, they gave him all that money in the offseason. I don't think he's really a guy they can rely on if Jameis goes down. Obviously, the dynamic between him and Jameis isn't as prolific as it was with Breeze. So a lot of question marks for the Saints in this offseason.
I will be interested to see. I think that's probably the most interesting quarterback, filling of the offseason. Who's going to be leading the Saints next season, or if they do end up staying with Jameis, because he was, I believe, 4-2 when he was the starter for New Orleans. Taysom had a great season. Don't get me wrong. Obviously playing through some injuries, but they just couldn't get the job done. Another game, Titans beating the Texans 28-25 in a nail biter. Titans solidify their number 1 seed in the AFC. The AFC will go through Nash Vegas this postseason. And Austin, bye week, Derrick Henry comes back. I don't know. I would hate to face the Titans first game off their bye week.
No, I agree with you. I mean, interesting close game, like you said, against the Texans, 28-25. We saw all their guys scoring, really. We saw A.J. Brown. We even saw Julio Jones touchdown, which is like, never know if this guy's playing. He suits up half the time. He doesn't see the field.
First one of the season.
First one of the season. Better late than never, I guess. But like you mentioned, King Henry gets another, week of rest. They say he could have probably played next week. Now he gets to rehab that a little bit more, come in fresh. I mean, we know the Titans are a different team when he's in the ball game. It's a different game plan for opponents. You got to plan for that. And along with him being healthy, with Brown and Julio being healthy, who was it? Fursker, I think their tight end caught a touchdown. He's looking good. Tannehill's got all his weapons back. And I wouldn't want to play the Titans right now.
Yeah, I would say that as a Raiders fan, Austin, I know it sounds like, kind of hiding, but I am rooting for the Steelers and the Patriots to somehow pull off an upset so the Raiders don't have to face the Titans if they get past Cincinnati.
Big if there.
Yeah, big if. Big ask, but, I've asked for more. 3 games we'll get into that absolutely meant jack shit for the playoffs, and probably some clown emojis that might pop up next to these games. First one, Bengals at Browns. Browns beating the Bengals 21-16. Obviously the Bengals didn't play Joey Buckets, so it was a easy win for them, I should say, the least. Nothing really to talk about. I mean, even if the Bengals won, it wasn't going to change their standings. Then we have the Vikings beating the Bears 31-17, and finally the Washington football team beating the Giants 22-7 in probably the weirdest game I've ever seen in my life. If I was a Giants fan, Austin, I think I would, denounce my fanhood,
Hmm.
maybe throw out some idle threats on Twitter, shoot some tweets out at Gettleman, maybe write a crazy note, to Joe Judge saying, how stupid and big of a clown he is. Quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9 is just the wave the white flag. Just get
Yeah.
your fans out of there. Like, what the hell? I don't even know what I would do if I was a fan. I'd throw my phone at the TV.
Yeah, the verdict is in on Joe Judge. You gots to go, bucko. Um, I know they didn't really have a lot of guys. Obviously, Daniel Jones injured this year. Saquon didn't play a lot. Galladay, which might have been the biggest wash of the season, waste of money paying him.
72 million.
Crazy. But I just think he's been there. This is his second season with the Giants. I mean, we've seen what this guy can show. You got to move on. He's kind of like still stuck in that old school era. Whereas, I'll keep mentioning it. It's like we're seeing a new wave of coaches: LaFleur, Kingsbury, McVay, all these guys, innovative, and clearly it's successful. We got Vrabel, all these guys, coaching playoff teams. This guy is stuck in the past, and clearly his way of coaching is not working for the New York Giants.
Yeah, and I follow Saquon Barkley on Instagram, former Penn State great, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Posted a picture on Instagram of him, a silhouette shot, walking, towards an exit door with the Giants logo on the door. I know I'm a curious man, somewhat deep, Austin, but that picture got me thinking. What's next for Saquon? Did he play his last game for the Giants? Because if I was Saquon Barkley, I would want to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were gonna petition him to go to the Raiders. I'm like, you already
We got
got a
Josh
decent running
Jacobs.
back.
No, we're good.
You can't just headhunt all Penn State greats and
Give
trying
me
to
Gesicki. Give me Barkley. Give
have
me
them,
Trace McSorley.
have them all meet up in the desert of Las Vegas. But yeah, other than that, I think that was pretty much all the games.
Well, besides the Saturday ones.
Right, yeah, Chiefs over Broncos, somewhat meaningless game. Obviously, that didn't change the position for the Chiefs in the playoffs. Cowboys beat up on the Eagles. Obviously, Eagles without Jalen Hurts, they solidified their playoff spot. I think they were kind of probably resting him just to make sure he was full go for next week against the Bucks. I said it, 51 points against an Eagles team without their starting quarterback. I'm still not sold on the Cowboys, Tyler. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, let's get into next week real quick. I do want to mention Week 18 records real quick, Austin,
Oh
going
boy.
in. Austin, not looking great for you, my friend. 7-9 this week. I went 10-6. Season records 150-19 for Austin, 162 and 108 for me. We're going into super wild card weekend, Austin.
Are we counting the picks for playoffs to our season records as well?
I think we should because
All
it's a
right.
full season.
I agree.
Okay, good. Super wild card weekend, the first wild card weekend where there will be a game played on Monday night. Saturday, Sunday night football. Let's start with Saturday. Let's get into it. Raiders at Bengals. On to Cincy, Austin.
No rest
Who do
for the
you got?
wicked. You throwing it over to me first. Well, Tyler, again, I'm unable to pick the Raiders. No matter how well they played tonight, how good they looked against a solid Chargers team. I'm gonna have to go with the Bengals, the home team. Joe Burrow, he's got all the weapons in the world. He's proven that he can go out there and win close football games. I think my only concern for the Bengals in this matchup is their offensive line versus that Raiders defensive front. We see Joe Burrow, he's scrambling a lot. He's running the scramble drill out of the pocket. So luckily that plays into his hand that he has that experience throughout the year. They're going to have to rely on Mixon to run the ball a lot. And Yeah, I just think for this one, I'm gonna give the leg up to the little bit better quarterback in my opinion.
This is a dynamic team the Bengals have. It would be easy to say double Jamar Chase, but the problem is you got Tyler Boyd, you got T Higgins, Joe Mixon out of the backfield is a great back. They do have a semi decent offensive line. The biggest thing for me though that I'm not sold on with the Bengals, their defense is great, but Joe Burrow, it's what Joe Burrow are we getting? Are we getting the guy that can throw 500 yards, or are we getting the guy
Oh,
that, may throw some stupid passes, some interceptions, have the ball turned over. This is a big game, Austin. This is Joe Burrow's first playoff game. And like I said, this is Derek Carr's first playoff game. And I want to take the veteran on this one. I'm going to go with the Raiders, of course, as you know.
yeah.
On to Cincinnati. I'm riding the hot hand. The Raiders, they lost to the Chiefs by, 40 or however much. Most teams would have folded at 6 and 7, like they said tonight. But the Raiders, they found a way to get it done. They've beaten teams that, yeah, they should have beaten, but they've also beaten teams like the Colts and the Chargers, who were tough opponents. Obviously, teams that missed the playoffs, but easily could have been in if the Raiders didn't beat them. So I think this team is good. Like you said, Max Crosby, he's my X factor on defense. I will say the secondary needs to step up big time. We need to cut down on the missed tackles. We need to, hone in on what we're doing offensively. Darren Waller looked like a decoy today. Maybe get him more involved in the offense. It's X Factor, Max Crosby, offense. It's Derek Carr. I'm going with the Raiders on this one.
Yeah, I mean it should be a shootout, right, Tyler? Neither of the teams have great secondaries. Definitely more passing powered offense for Cincinnati. I'd say Rangers. I had the Rangers on my New York Rangers. Raiders.
That's all, folks.
A little bit of a more dual threat. I feel like Tyler, both these teams are better on the road. I mean, maybe you would know for the Raiders. I feel like the Bengals definitely. So with that being said, I mean that favors the Raiders. I think it'll be a good football game, and it should be a close one.
Yeah, I'm low key a little bit upset that this is the first game that we're starting out with. I feel like these two teams are very, you know, it's going to be a great game. I feel like it's going to be just like tonight's game. Obviously Joe Burrow got drafted in the same draft class as Justin Herbert. They're two very similar good young quarterbacks. This is going to be a barn burner, and we're going to start out with this for, Super Wildcard Weekend. Let's go. Giddy up.
Are you worried at all? Obviously, we talked about Burrow, Mixon didn't play. I mean, we saw Chase and all the receivers get limited snaps, whereas, Carr and the whole Raiders team, they're coming off of a hard-fought football game, overtime. They're going to be tired. Literally the last game being played of the day, and now they're the first game being played wild card weekend. Do you think fatigue or maybe lingering injuries factor into this matchup at all?
Well, just like the no-look NCAA basketball bracket, Austin, that we did last March, where we took into fatigue as a factor, and
Yeah,
we lost every single one
yeah,
of those games.
true.
I'm gonna say that we're gonna ride the hot hand. Fatigue is nothing. It's all a mindset, and we're on to Cincy. It's a business trip.
Yeah, I mean, Raiders definitely going to be a little bit hungover. They just got to wake up, take a little bit of that
No
hair of the
DUIs.
dog.
It's all I pray of.
Right, oh boy, just ride that out. Because once they sober up, it's game over.
Yeah. Next game we got on Saturday, Patriots at Bills rematch for the third time, I guess you could say. AFC East rivals. Austin, I'll go first. Um, this is an easy one for me. I think we saw, the true Mac Jones, the true Patriots team today facing a Dolphins team. Although I feel like the Patriots don't travel very well to Miami to begin with. A lot of bad losses the Patriots have had. But I think I have to go with the Bills on this one. They're playing very well, rushing the ball even better. Devin Singletary has been, a force to be reckoned with out of the backfield for the Bills. They're getting Steph Diggs the ball. Dawson Knox, had a decent game today. Josh Allen obviously is the X factor in this one for me. But the biggest threat for me is, defensively getting the pressure on Mac Jones, making the rookie, make some bad passes, get to him, sack him, hit him. Really, it's all about, getting pressure on him and not allowing the Bill Belichick offense to scheme against this Bills defense, because if they do, it will be a running game just like it was, about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on this one. In the pick and in your reasoning why. I just feel like the inexperience of Mac Jones is definitely gonna factor in. I can't think of a better person to learn from and to, kind of expedite his experience in the league than Bill Belichick. However, he's still a rookie. He's still fresh. Whereas on the other side of the ball, Bills have been here before. Josh Allen, McDermott, right? They've been in these types of situations. They know how to handle it. I feel like they have a better, more well-rounded football team. We saw Singletary, run the ball pretty well today. They have Zach Moss. They've even thrown Breida in there a little bit. They have guys that can run the ball and catch out of the backfield. Obviously, Diggs, X Factor. But we've seen guys like Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie. They have Dawson Knox. I just think, they're a little bit more dynamic. The only way they lose this game, again, Tyler, is if there are some crazy weather conditions. The Bills can't play their traditional, high-powered offense, air it out football game plan, and the mastermind that is Bill Belichick can play chess and maneuver things in his favor. But with that being said, obviously I'm going to go with the Bills.
Again, Austin, it would be a real shame if the Bills did lose. Just saying, just throwing that out there, would be a real shame if they did end up losing to the Patriots. Hoping they win.
What do you mean by that?
Hoping they win. If the Raiders win, hoping they win. But if they don't, it's okay. Sunday night or Sunday football, we got first game Eagles at Bucks. I think this is a rematch. I feel like the Eagles faced the Bucks earlier this season. If not, I might be.
Did the Eagles win that game?
No, I think they lost by
28-22 Bucks. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an easy pick for me, Austin. I'll go first. I'm riding with the Bucks on this one. The 2 seed. They're hot right now. Like I said before, playoff Lenny coming back. That he's going to be my X factor for this game offensively for the Bucks. I think he's, super dynamic, not only running the ball, but out of the backfield, catching the ball. He's grown exponentially in that facet of his game with receiving. And on defense, X factor is definitely going to be Vita Vea, the big man up front, rushing Jalen Hurts all game. The dude just got paid. Speaking of $72 million, the boy, the big muscled Hawaiian, or I guess you could say fat Hawaiian, Vita Vea, getting paid 72 million bones. The guy absolutely deserves it. Great guy, beautiful smile. But he's going to be rushing Jalen Hurts all game long. I don't think this is going to be a pretty game for the Eagles, but I'm going to ride with the Bucks on this one.
Yeah, again, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think the last time Tom Brady lost in the wild card round, I was just sprouting my first pubic hair. I don't think that's going to change this year.
Again, what year was that?
It's probably circa 2007.
Okay.
No, 6 maybe. I don't know. I'll have to get the scrapbook, where my diary. Hey, guys, I got my first crotch wiggly. Not sure what this is.
January 7, 2006.
No. Obviously, I was one of those guys, Tyler, that matured quicker and then just stopped. I hit puberty at an early age. I was one of the taller guys, and then I was just 5'10" and a quarter for 10, 15 years.
That's better than being 5'5" since 5th grade.
Yeah, that's true. But
no, I've probably been 5'5" since 9th grade, at least.
At least you can fit into, comfortable places, and you don't need as big of a bed or a large couch to sleep on. You can be comfortable.
Also, cars, you don't need. I could fit into a Fiat, no problem.
Right. You could probably fit a whole clown car with you in the Fiat. right, let's get back to football. Um, we're talking about Bucks versus Eagles. Yeah, Tom Brady, he doesn't need Godwin. He doesn't need AB. He's got his guy Gronk. I mean, he'll probably target him like 20 plus times, and then like, oh, you forgot about Mike Evans. Interesting that you mentioned earlier about Leonard Fournette. I doubt he'll come back this week. I don't think so. That'll be my only issue, running the ball. But at the same time, Eagles definitely haven't had that stout of a defense. I don't know. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a shootout. I'm not sure if Sanders is back for this one. Eagles definitely have a solid offensive line. It's gonna come down to Jalen Hurts. They have guys like Devontae Smith. Rager's been playing well as of late. Goddard. But at the end of the day, it's Tom Brady. I don't. I'd be wasting breath if I tried talking around that and really said more things other than it's Tom Brady.
Yeah. Next game we got Niners at Cowboys, like you aforementioned. Austin, I need you to go first on this one, just because I need to hear your reasonings on everything. I'm unsure about this game. I love the Niners, like you said. I also think the Cowboys are somewhat legit, but who do you got and why?
Oh, can you get back to me in 1 to 3 business days? Because I don't know. This is like a toss up for me. I'm torn, honestly. One side of it, it's like I see what Jimmy G and the Niners team can do. They have Debo Samuel. They have Mitchell back healthy. They're dynamic. Bosa on the defensive side of the ball, just disrupting. But I can't quite talk myself into it, Tyler. Their secondary kind of scares me. There's not a lot of strength in that portion of it. Whereas on the other side of it, you have a healthy Prescott. You have, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. Obviously Gallup is going to be missed in this game and for the rest of the playoffs. But, we've seen flashes of Zeke at times. I think it's going to come down to Mike McCarthy. He's my X factor, how he calls this game. If he tries to get in a smash mouth, run the ball, defensive type game, I think there's a good chance they could lose because I think the Niners might have the slight advantage in that type situation. However, if this is an all-out aerial attack, high-scoring football game, they get up early, they force, Jimmy G to win the game, on his own, abandon the run game, I think they'll be fine. I think that's what happens. We talk about Micah Parsons, we talk about Trayvon Diggs, Van Der Esch, all these guys on the side of the ball. The defense has played great year long. I think they've done enough throughout the year and put himself into this position to win this football game.
Yeah,
I wanted to pick the Niners. I couldn't do it.
I know you did, and you know what? I will for you.
Oh wow.
Austin, primarily a little bit of my pick and my thinking of this is it would be a real shame if the Eagles lost and the 49ers won, and the first game the Packers have to face in Lambeau is against the Niners. It'd be a real nightmare for you, wouldn't it? But in all
Got
honesty,
home field this time, asshole.
In all honesty, I do love this 49ers team. I think they are a very good team. Like you said, and I agree 100%. I was going to say it myself. The secondary is absolutely abysmal. They've been injured all season. They haven't had a lot of guys that, have been able to make good stops. Obviously, they're going up against, probably one of the better of the wide receiver cores in the NFL. But at my point, I'm thinking, what Dak Prescott are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy that gets 5 touchdowns, or are we going to get the guy that can't even score a touchdown? I don't trust this Cowboys offense. I don't trust this Cowboys defense. Trayvon Diggs, although he has a lot of interceptions, he also is probably one of the worst coverage cornerbacks in the league. Debo Samuel, I think he needs to get the ball. He needs to be facilitated in the offense. But really, it's George Kittle at the end of the day. I don't think there's a linebacker on the Cowboys that can guard George Kittle. Elijah Mitchell obviously has been dynamic all season, almost 1,000 rushing yards if he didn't get it today. So I want to pick the Cowboys, but I think we're going to see an upset in the NFC, and I think it's going to be the 49ers that do it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's definitely a scenario where they can win this football game. I just think the Cowboys, they're a little bit more well-rounded of a team.
Let me ask you this, Austin, real quick, since you know Mike McCarthy pretty well. If the Cowboys do lose this game, do they get rid of Mike McCarthy?
No, I mean, I think they saw what he can do, with these weapons. They had a good year. Obviously, they finished at, was it third in the NFC? He's got a good enough resume. I don't think it's quick enough, for him to be a one and done type deal. Obviously, they struggled last year with Prescott's injury. This is his first time as the coach of the Cowboys, them getting the playoffs. I think you still have to let that relationship marinate a little bit and see what happens in the years to come. So I'd say no.
So next game we got, final game on Sunday night, Steelers at Chiefs. Austin, although I do want to pick the Steelers on this one because, it would be a real shame if the Steelers won and, the Raiders won too.
Hmm.
Obviously, going up, whoever wins those games is going up against King Henry and the Titans. But I'm going to ride with the Chiefs on this one in Arrowhead, probably one of the toughest and loudest places to play. Like I said in our Snapchat group, although a tie is, okay, we're gonna get into the playoffs. I don't want to face this Chiefs team first round. This is a scary team. They're probably one of the hottest in football. They didn't have a lot, offensively against the Broncos. Tyreek Hill went out early. Kelsey was, he was there. They had a great run game with Darrell Williams, the mentor. But I think this is going to be the game where they get back to it. This Steelers team, besides TJ Watt, I don't think that they're that great defensively, especially against this dynamic of an offense and the Chiefs. And, the Chiefs are, absolutely incredible. I think they're like first or second in all three ratings and, points allowed and yards allowed and probably turnovers since they acquired Melvin Ingram from the Steelers. So we're going to see a Chiefs defense that, is absolutely probably even better than their offense. Probably not, but,
Yeah.
they're going to go up against a beaten, Steelers offense in Big Ben. And I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs on this one. This is an easy one for me.
Yeah, it would be cool to say, oh, Roethlisberger's last season, get a big upset, maybe win a couple games, AFC Championship, whatever. I just don't see it happening. The Chiefs are too good of a football team. Last time they faced off earlier in the year, Tyler, the Chiefs won 36-10. I think this game will be a little bit closer. However, I think the Chiefs come out victorious. It again, I feel like it'll be a high scoring game, which, we're talking about the Chiefs. When isn't it typically? They got all their guys, right? They got Kelsey, they got Hill. The Lions looking decent. Defense is playing well. Like you mentioned, TJ Watt, he is a game changer. He is a disruptor. I think he'll have his moment. However, they have a whole week to scheme for him. They saw him earlier in the year. They know how to plan. I think the Chiefs come out, and prove why they're one of the top teams in the NFL.
Again, would be a real shame if the Chiefs lost, but
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. And last game we got Monday Night Football, the first Monday Night Football game in wild card history. Cardinals at Rams, the trilogy, if you will, of this these two teams. Austin, I'll allow you to go first.
Okay.
I've gone first the past few times. Who do you got in this game and why on Monday night?
Obviously, these two teams, divisional rivals. They played twice already this year. They split the games, both coming off of a loss. However, I think in this one, the more well-rounded team is the Los Angeles Chargers. We talked
Rams.
about it, Rams, excuse me. I got the Chargers on the brain. Stafford, it's going to come down to how he plays, but I think I would give McVay the slight edge over Kingsbury right now, with the weapons he has and obviously how to scheme against that front. Kyler Murray, we talk about him all the time, Tyler. I don't know if it's, the height type deal or, it's just his sporadic play style. He's either like, an all or nothing type guy. You love him or hate him. He has these crazy dynamic performances. And on the other side of it, he has these games where you're shaking your head and like, what's going on? I think it'll be a clash of titans. I think this will be a good game. I think it'll be high scoring. Um, it's going to come down to defense for me. I think these offenses are, pretty equal. I think the Rams have a little bit better defense, and at the end of the day, for me, that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on this one. I'm riding with the Rams on this. Although, we're gonna need to see way more out of Kyler Murray than we have seen in weeks past. It's absolutely appalling, if I was a Cardinals fan, to see how the destruction of the Cardinals has happened. Obviously losing JJ Watt, obviously losing DeAndre Hopkins is huge for their team. But the fact of the matter is that they have great pieces in this organization. Obviously Kyler Murray, they got Buda Baker, Isaiah Simmons on defense. They have, what's his face, Chandler Jones, rushing the passer. They have all these names. They have big names, just like the Rams do. The problem is that they're losing. They're playing down to teams. They're losing games that they shouldn't be losing. And at the end of the day, this is going to be the Rams games to lose. This team is a veteran team. They traded all their assets. They got rid of everybody to bring in all these vet players, OBJ, Von Miller, Matt Stafford. I mean, they have the pieces. If they are the team that they think they are, and McVay can get these guys to circle around him, and they can gel in the playoffs, this team would be probably the hardest team to beat in the NFL because of how much talent they have. It's if they want to do it. And long story short, I think the Cardinals don't have what it takes to beat any team in the playoffs at this point. So for that, I'm going with the Rams.
Yeah, the Cardinals defense just, there's not enough pieces there. I feel like if they get into the shootout type game, I just feel like the Rams defense has a little bit more firepower on that side of the ball to get the stops.
I don't even think it's their defense. I think their defense plays as hard as they can. It's their offense. Kyler Murray just doesn't. I don't know what's they're getting into ruts. They don't get the offense going. Kyler Murray's running around with his head cut off like a chicken. James Conner's been in and out. They just don't have the pieces on offense to get the ball moving up and down the field. So they're sad. I don't even know if they would beat the Eagles in the playoffs.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I don't know.
They do have like the potential to go off though, Tyler. You know what I mean? Like they have the pieces. If they come out there, and the wind is blowing in the right direction and the sun is shining perfectly, like they can go out there and put up a lot of points. But at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to defense, and really, it's going to be one of those games who has the ball last.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they were undefeated at one point, the number 1 seed, and now, here they are at number 5. So
peaked a little too soon, maybe.
Yeah, peaked back in high school. But yeah, I guess we'll see how those games, end up. Obviously next week. One tidbit of news that I wanted to share with you: Klay Thompson's first game back for the Warriors, and I believe like over 900 days or something like that. Obviously, the Warriors beat the Cavs in his return game. Had a poster dunk on a guy, hit a few threes. All I wanted to say was it's nice. Obviously, not talking football, but it's nice seeing Klay Thompson back on the court. It's been long overdue. The guy is a shooter and probably one of the best to ever shoot the ball besides Steph Curry. So it's going to be interesting how that Warriors team will go throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs. They might be the Warriors of the past.
They're rolling right now. I know I saw Draymond, he started the game, but he was hurt, so he left, which I don't know if you saw, but like someone bet all his unders in a parlay and won like $20,000. I don't even know how Vegas allowed that if they knew he was hurt. And, I feel like it was common knowledge he was only going to go in there for the tip-off and then foul someone and go off to the sideline. But, yeah, Warriors are rolling right now. Again, that wraps it up, I believe. Tyler, congratulations on the win, Raiders victory, and I appreciate you for staying up. It's, what is it, 1:30 over there right now?
1:30, baby.
Damn, he's got to wake up, sling that tile tomorrow morning. Stay tuned. Well, by the time you see this, tomorrow will be yesterday, so I can't say see me on Monday Night Gaming. But stay tuned. Thirsty Thursday, your boy Yo Soy ACWeezy. I think we're starting a new time this week. We're going to do 11 EST, 8 PST live from the West Coast. And as always, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Until next time, Weezy out.